Abraham had passed the test that God had given him, and God came back to speak to him again. Abraham had shown his love for God by obeying all of the commands, both great and small. It took a long time before God tested Abraham by asking him to offer his son Isaac. God knew Abraham's heart and how long he had been an obedient servant to God. God gave him a special test that no one else would ever have. I told you before how God was also letting Abraham see and feel how God was going to feel and how he was going to offer his own son, Jesus, in the future. So this story points to the future, as most stories in the Old Testament do. Many people in the New Testament point back to the Old Testament stories and say, remember this? In fact, Jesus called Abraham Father Abraham with respect. After the test was over, God came to Abraham once again. God told Abraham what he had promised many years before. And this time, he described the promise more completely and beautifully. God told Abraham not only that his family would be large, they would be multiplied. God told Abraham his family would bless all the nations. They would become multiplied like the stars in the sky and like the grains of sand on the seashore. How would that be? I'm sure later in my imagination, I can see Abraham that night looking up at the stars, and he could see how beautiful they were and how many, but he could not count the stars. There were so many. Sometimes I look up in the sky and I think, how many stars? Well, the Bible stories in the Old Testament will go on to show how Abraham's family kept growing until baby Jesus was born many, many, many years later. Then we'll learn how Jesus taught people, every single person, how to obey God and become one of his children. God's going to adopt all the children who obey him. That's how the family grows even larger. Every single person can become a child of God, like the number of the stars in the sky, too many to count. That's how Abraham was able to bless all nations by becoming the father of a nation where baby Jesus would be born many, many years later. Abraham teaches us when we obey God, God is pleased. And that's the story of Abraham, Father Abraham.